A century ago, in the silent era of film, one story gave birth to the modern vampire. This was not the elegant Dracula we later came to know, but a creature far stranger, far more terrifying. This was Count Orlok, the Nosferatu, a nightmare made of shadows and silence, a monster that changed horror cinema forever. And then comes one of the most famous shots in cinema history, the shadow of Count Orlok, stretching unnaturally across the wall, climbing step by step toward his victim. We never see his face. We only see his shape. This moment proves that true horror needs no blood, no loud noises, only suggestion. The imagination of the audience fills in the rest. It is one of those images that has echoed through film history, copied, parodied, and feared for more than a century. Our story begins with a young man named Hutter. He is sent by his employer on a business trip to sell a distant property. The journey leads him far from the safety of home, deep into the mountains of Transylvania. The further he travels, the more unsettling the signs become. Frightened villagers, strange warnings, and landscapes that seem alive with dread. The closer he gets, the more it feels like fate is pulling him into a trap, and the audience already knows he is entering a world from which he may never return. And then, he arrives. The castle looms, cold and unwelcoming. When the doors creak open, Count Orlok finally appears. No seduction, no charm, only horror. A bald head, rat-like teeth, claws too long for a human. He is not a noble count who hides behind manners. He is disease itself, walking in human form. Max Schreck, the actor who played Orlok, gave such an uncanny performance that rumors spread he might not have been acting at all, but was a real vampire captured on film. One of the most unsettling moments is a dinner scene. Hutter sits at the table, but Orlok never eats, never speaks more than a whisper. He simply watches. The silence stretches longer and longer, until it becomes unbearable. In that moment, both Hutter and the audience understand, this is not a host, not a man, but a predator waiting for the right time to strike. And yet, the horror is subtle. Nothing dramatic happens, the terror is born from stillness and the weight of Orlok's presence. Famous shots in cinema history, the shadow of Count Orlok, stretching unnaturally across the wall. The vampire does not strike in daylight. Here, only his shadow rises, hands like claws closing in on Hutter, a reminder that in Nosferatu, fear itself is the true monster. Soon after, Orlok begins his journey to Hutter's city. He does not travel as a passenger but as a plague, hidden in the hold of a ship. The sequence of the Demeter, the cursed ship, is one of cinema's most chilling passages. We see sailors fall one by one, until only emptiness remains. No fangs, no blood, no screams, just silence, rats, and a ship drifting toward doom. By the time it reaches the harbor, the crew is gone. The only survivor is death itself. When the ship arrives, it carries not only Orlok, but also a shadow of disease. The city becomes gripped by fear. Coffins line the streets, families mourn in silence. This was filmed only a few years after the Spanish flu pandemic that killed millions worldwide. Audiences of the 1920s did not see this as fantasy, they saw a reflection of their own recent nightmares. Nosferatu was more than a horror film. It was a reminder of how fragile human life could be. In the climax, Hatter's wife Ellen realizes that the only way to stop Orlok is to sacrifice herself. She lures him into her bedroom and keeps him there until the sun rises. For the first time in film history, sunlight destroys a vampire. This was not in Bram Stoker's original Dracula, it was invented by Nosferatu. And today, nearly every vampire story still follows that same rule. The dawn breaks, Orlok fades into smoke and silence, and his curse finally ends.
Nosferatu is more than a silent movie. It is the foundation of horror. The shadow that shaped a century of monsters. Made without sound, it still screams. Made in black and white, it still burns with imagination. Even after 100 years, the vampire of Nosferatu continues to haunt our screens, and perhaps our dreams. This is not just cinema history. This is where horror began.